Hey and welcome to my channel, it's Egwin here from Beyond Systems. Today once again I decided to do an update on emotions and how they influence the body, how we can control certain very specific emotions. I do this because some people specifically asked for this, and also it really fits the current time. So the topic that we're talking about today specifically is how to cope and how to control anxiety and fear. Especially fear and anxiety, first of all, they are not the same thing. They are often referred to and used in our regular language very similarly. However, they are not the exact same thing. Fear is literally one of the basic emotions, a basic, you would say, fundamental emotional response pattern or pulsational response pattern of every living being, basically. No matter if you're talking about a single-cell organism or something as complex as a human being, the cellular pulsation and the changes in actual communication in the cell and so on that can be observed in a single-cell organism or in a very simple bacterium, they happen in a human body just the exact same way, with the main difference that we are cognitively capable of actually describing them, putting a name to it, and that's the exact thing that we call fear eventually. Anxiety is slightly different. Anxiety is actually more a mental than an emotional element. Anxiety is literally something where, based on certain facts and or based on certain experiences, your mind extrapolates the current situation and creates a worst-case projected scenario. Then the mind uses a physiological response mechanism that triggers the emotional response of fear to actually underpower and actually underfill this mental concept, make it even more important, subjectively more important, push it more into the forefront. So that's the difference between fear and anxiety. Fear is an emotion. Anxiety, like I just said, is more a mental element that uses an emotional chain in the body to make itself being heard even more. Now, I talked about how emotions come to be in the body a lot, so today in the video I will focus more on what one can do to actually control them rather than once again going through the process of explaining exactly how emotions work. If you want more info about that, please go to one of the other videos that I posted in that regard. I'm going to link them down in the description below. Now, first of all, fear has a very contractile element to it. When it comes to our cellular function, fear really is the biggest enemy of free flow of pulsation and of good physiological coherence. Normally, the heart is the governing factor of physiological coherence and really balances out all of those different aspects of how our gut and our lungs and our heart rate and our cognitive functions and our muscle tone and our transpiration and all of those things, how they actually are linked with each other in a way so that they form what we call a healthy and very well functioning human being or physiological body. Whenever fear is introduced, the intercellular communication is limited massively. Also, the tension patterns in the body rise, the tension levels rise, plus the pulsation becomes more erratic, coherence in the body drops. In that regard, the real opposite of love is definitely not hate. In a physiological perspective, the opposite of love is fear. Love in the body is more the connecting element, where all cells communicate with each other effectively. The coherence in the body is very high, whereas fear is the exact opposite of that. Again, that being said, what can one do? I'm gonna talk about a couple of different things. First of all, breathing. Breathing is something that has partially subconscious and partially conscious elements to it. So you can only control your breathing to a certain extent. Say you cannot kill yourself by holding your breath as long as you are on the surface. You can, if you're mentally very strong, bring yourself to becoming unconscious. But after that, your automation will kick in and your breathing will be reinstated. Like I said, as long as you're not submerged underwater or something like that. That being said, there is always a conscious element that we can choose, right? We can talk, we can sing. All of those are conscious decisions. We can, for instance, choose to go more into an exhalation than in an inhalation. So all of those are different possibilities that we have. When it comes to fear specifically, one of the things that you want to pay attention to is more so the exhaling part than the inhaling part. The typical stress response of the body is to go into shortness of breaths with very, very filled lungs, with a tight diaphragm, with a tight abdominal wall, with breathing relatively high up in the chest, where the volume is also pretty low. Whenever you want to go into reducing fear, it's a good idea to break that stressful breathing pattern of shortness of breath that is more on the side of inhalation and go into full, first of all, passive exhalation. So when you inhale fully and you just exhale, then you come to what's called the respiratory resting position. From here, you can press even more air out consciously, which then is an active exhalation. Everything that goes more into the part of active exhalation helps you to break out of the physiological response pattern of fear. Like one of my old instructors always told me, look, one of the things that you can do to actually break out of fear is simply to start singing. In singing, the breathing part, the inhalation part is relatively short, and there is more emphasis on the exhaling, on the exhalation. You expand your exhalation, which is also what immediately takes you out, physiologically takes you out of a stress response pattern. If you are doing breathing exercises, there are a couple of things that you can do. A really good thing to balance sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system with each other is simply to go, say, for a 4-count inhale and a 4-count exhale to really balance yourself out and focus mainly on the breath. Don't even focus too much on the counts. Focus more on the sensation of the breath, on streaming of the air in or out through the nose. So really the physiological sensations, the physiological basis of all of those things. Another thing that you can do if you are very stressed out, that is out there as a breathing pattern, as a breathing method. However, this is one that you want to train first, is box breathing, which is basically, say, a 3 or 4 count inhalation, a 3 or 4 count breath hold in an inhaled state, a 3 or 4 count exhalation, and then again a 3 or 4 count breath hold in an exhaled state, and then the whole thing starts again. So that's why it's called box breathing. Like I said, you do not want to start with this when you are in an anxiety or fear situation if you have never done it. Also with box breathing, be very careful because due to the breath holds, you might actually generate more stress in the body than you can take out of it. So that is something I would even say start with 3 rather than 4 count. So really take rather short periods of inhale and exhalation and also breath hold to slowly get used to it. So this would be, for me, the second method in line, because I say method number 1 is really just do something that's easy that you do not have to train for. The next thing that comes to mind that you can also do with your breath and that does not require any specific training is you can go, say, for a 4-count inhale and a 6-count exhalation, which requires you to pay a little bit more attention to the exhalation, maybe even deepen the exhalation in relation to the inhalation process, which again is similar than simply starting to sing, which will again take you out of that physiological response pattern. Another very big group of things that you can do, see, since fear is the stressful element of contraction and of desynchronization from different organ groups, different muscle groups within your body, one of the elements that you can do as well is simply breaking out of those tension patterns by exposing your body to a comfortable rhythmic pulsation. One way to do that, which is probably not available for everyone, would be, say, to sit in a jacuzzi, in a whirlpool, and literally let yourself be wobbled through by the water, by the air bubbles in the water, by this pulsation in the water that completely breaks you out of those tension patterns again, plus has the additional benefit of something in the water, which also has a calming effect on most people's nervous system unless they have traumatic experiences with water. That's important to understand here as well. Another one of those possibilities to take yourself out of one specific pulsation would simply be shaking yourself. So you stand roughly hip wide apart. I'm going to do a separate video about that and explain a little more. Just to give you a vague idea right now. Inside edge is parallel, feet roughly hip wide, and you start to bounce. It's really not more than this. You slowly bring your knees forward and back. That's the intent. And the rest of the body just starts to bounce up and down, up and down. You can pull your shoulders up, relax your arms, bounce with your arms a little bit, and keep breathing while you're doing this. So you rhythmically inhale and exhale while you're doing it. I'm going to do it with noise now, like inhale and exhale. Please do not do it with a conscious noise, especially in the inhale. The inhale, if possible, do it through your nose. I only did it now to show you that I'm inhaling. So normally, please do these exercises with inhaling through the nose, and then you can exhale through an open mouth and make whatever sound comes out. That's a really good method to break out of tensional patterns in the body. When you do this, I'd say go for 5 minutes, maybe 6-7 minutes. You could do it way more intensely, but that would require from me to explain a little bit more, which I do not want to do in this video because it's going to be a very long one already anyway. So even with a couple of minutes of bouncing, maybe even 2 or 3 minutes of bouncing, you'll already do massive good things for yourself in terms of breaking out of whatever pulsational, emotional, physiological pattern is currently present in your body, giving you the possibility of choice and then introducing something more optimized behind that again. Another possibility for that would obviously be to dance. Yes, I mean that literally. Put on some music that you really appreciate and like. Ideally, some music that creates order in the body. So for that, I would not exactly use, I don't know, very hard electronic music or death metal or anything like that. I would choose a music that's more on the soft side. And I think probably most people out there, some of them like more the hard stuff and a little bit of the soft stuff. Some like more the soft and a little bit of the hard or something like that. But choose something that is more on the calmer side, but still, it could be something like Latin music if you're into this or something like that. And start moving your body in that rhythm. Start to literally dance and do some dance moves to that. Tune into that positive vibe that music facilitates for you. This is also a massively good way to break out of emotional stress, fear, and anxiety patterns. Since we're already talking about music, One other possibility to use music in this specific sense would be to use classical music, specifically at 432 hertz, not the nowadays used 440, but a 432 hertz version of classical music like Bach or Mozart and stuff like that, because they are physiologically in research shown to actually calm the nervous system down the most. So that's another option of things that you can do to break out of an immediate fear response pattern or an anxiety pattern. Like I said, fear and anxiety are not the same, but when you get a handle on fear, that also gives you the possibility to mentally zoom a little bit out of something that you might call anxiety and take a second go with it, literally, like reobserve what are the elements that your mind used to create that worst case scenario, and what might be positive elements that one can bring in there that the mind simply overlooked. And to be honest, sometimes, yes, it can be extremely difficult and challenging, but there can always be, however small they might be, positive elements as well. If that is a single sunbeam shining in through the window, if it's a bird landing on a leaf, if it's you enjoying one bite from your favorite food or favorite drink, whatever it might be, especially in times of fear and anxiety, pay attention to the little things that give you joy and really enjoy them as consciously as possible. That is so extremely important. For those of you who have some prior experience, things like a regular Qigong practice or regular yoga practice, of course, also help you to break out of patterns like fear and anxiety. If you have a certain amount of training already and you are capable of performing them at a certain level, then this is something that really helps you, that really supports you. However, if right now you are someone who has never done any one of those modalities, yes, you can start now, you can get into it now when you need it immediately, but obviously the effect will be a lot bigger for someone who has done that for 5 or 10 years already. However, still, there will be a positive effect. Again, mainly because you pay attention to your conscious breathing, you pay attention to how you move, and all of that helps. Even simple things like passive stretching, going into this opening of the structure, having a passive stretching routine, things like that. Even that is something that can help you tremendously to break out of emotional patterns, especially when they tend to become more chronic. And speaking about the current time, current virus situation, like I said in the disclaimer video, I'm not going to go into that in any detail, but since at the moment many people are in certain emotional states for prolonged periods of time already, it's a really good thing to have some idea and some handle on what you can do to positively support that ability of yours to take charge and to take control, at least over your response again. One more element that I want to share with you, because it is a good one, an important one, a really powerful one, is the following. The reason why I put it last is because it's also the most difficult one. And that is create buffer zones in your life. Whatever it might be that stresses you out, one of the typical aspects of that for almost all human beings is that if you have something where you're afraid of, if you have something that creates a lot of anxiety in you or fear, then a good portion of your awareness is stuck with that. It tries to get more information. It tries to understand. It tries to make heads and tails out of this situation, which is all 100% understandable. And I do not say just ignore everything. Definitely not. No. Be educated. Educate yourself. Be aware. Pull informations together, no matter if it's the current situation or any other situation that produces fear or anxiety in yourself, whatever it might be. Go in communication. Go ask questions. Go find information. But give yourself buffer zones throughout the day. This is extremely important. For me personally, me and my partner, we create buffer zones, especially around morning, nighttime, and our meals. Which means, specifically, when I wake up in the morning, the first half an hour to an hour, I do my best not to engage, first of all, with any social media. I do not engage with my mobile phone with possible negative news or anything like that. And I do not entertain any thoughts that wrap around whatever problem there might be in the first half an hour or an hour a day. Same thing goes for before going to bed. Even before I go to the shower, before I brush my teeth, I tune into something positive for me very specifically. In my case, sometimes I stand out in front of the apartment next to a tree or something like that and just use that standing there next to another quote-unquote living being that is not another human enjoying life together on this planet, literally. And the same thing we do around times that, like I said earlier, have to do with, say, our meals. It's our food intake, right? So it really has a lot to do with what you put in your brain as well as what you put into your guts. When you combine eating your food with negative news and talking about negative things, you do not do anything good for your health. You only combine negative news with something that is supposed to nourish you, which is not a good idea at all. So that's the hardest thing to do because it requires constant control of your thoughts, constant control of your emotions, and it really demands of you that internal authority of saying, okay, I take charge of that situation and I decide to think about positive things, to think about what can I do creatively, to think about what can I maybe eat tomorrow, what is my favorite meal, maybe remember even positive things in your life that give you power. It's not easy, but it is one of the most rewarding things for the immune system and for your rest period, which again is extremely important, especially to support your immune system and your overall well-being. All right, so that is, in a nutshell, some strategies that you can use to break out of fear, anxiety, and take control over those elements. If you have any questions, which I can easily understand, please leave them in the comment box down below. Reach out to me. I'm happy to do some more classes, online classes here, and explain more if need be. All of that being said, please share and like this video if you think it might be of importance for someone else as well. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with more infos regarding those things or just simply living healthy. Pay attention to the disclaimer that I put down in the link description as well. And also one more thing that I wanted to share with you. At the moment, we are also doing more online classes. Again, for those, you can see the link down below. Online classes and community programs to really support as much as possible. And this goes for now and also beyond the current situation. Have a beautiful time. I wish you all the best from the bottom of my heart. Take care. And yeah, see you around on this still very, very beautiful planet. And do whatever you can to come into positive vibes. Put on your favorite music, dance to it, and sing. Remember, breathing out is a good thing. All right, thanks for watching, have a beautiful time, and all the best to you.